So I read the resolution and I'd like to amend the resolution to include a couple different things. The first thing would be notification by mail to a half-mile radius of whatever road it is. And the reason for that is because if you're within a half-mile radius of that road, you're going to get affected. So we do that every 2 years. Because people move, they come in, different things happen to the road. Then there could be a reason you don't need the road anymore, like at 143rd, we have 159th. You don't need 143rd redone. Okay, then the next thing would be to bring the entire road project concept plan to the board every 2 years and include in there, and when they bring it to the board, then include all the comments and everything that's discussed in the public hearings. Because we don't know what the comments are. We never see that stuff. So those are the two things that I want to see. And, I know one thing, we just voted a couple months back about the 2040 or the 2050 plan. I forgot which one it was. We never even saw the plan. It's on the internet somewhere. We never discussed it. And that's what happened with projects like 143rd, which is not the norm. Normally, there's not a problem moving this stuff forward, but sometimes there is. And if we would have known ahead of time that 159th Street was going through, because that was an IDOT program, then there's a good possibility 143rd Street wouldn't be the problem it is. Now, I understand it's probably part 143rd probably is an IDOT plan to make it like the Dan Ryan Expressway going from Route 59 to Cicero. But I don't know that for sure, but that's what all the stuff that I'm seeing indicate, because now they're going to be putting a bridge in to nowhere if it's going to not connect to 143rd Street by 355. And then when you get up into Orland Park, Orland Park's fighting with the Forest Preserve about land. And then when it goes east, the cities that are east of there are going to have their people all screaming. So I realize that's not our problem, but it kind of is, because our lawsuit that we have at our Homer Township is a holdup right now. And I know the county believes it's going to move forward. Our lawyers say that we're going to win. So it's a juggling thing. And I know the people over there they're getting more and more agitated because they're being approached by third parties to sell their land, and they're offered peanuts for it, but they're getting very frustrated. And we voted numerous times, but the county executive vetoed all the things to stop approaching those people to sell it. And the reason for that is that the county believes that the project will go forward. Now, if we had something every 2 years, there would be enough time that we could stop projects that are not wanted by the people. We just talked about a project with the people going around and it's dangerous, right? Well, take the money from 143rd Street and move it over there. I'm just throwing it out that that's a lot of money for something nobody wants, and it's not just the people on 143rd. It's the entire village of Homer Glen, all the unincorporated people. And probably, because I haven't went into the city of Lockport, but the parts over there that are right by it also. So we need to make sure that we're always putting everything forward that the people want, not what the government wants. It's what the people want. And if we do this every 2 years, we can prevent that, I hope.
Sorry. Okay, I get,
I did make a motion.
yeah, so I just, for clarification, and Kim has maybe can help us out, but the purpose, I'm reading the purpose, and those items that you just brought up that you want to amend is in the purpose of
Right, I want
the creating the ordinance, but the actual ordinance, I'm not seeing it in there. So Kim, can you help us out here real quick? Because I want to make sure that you do get your amendment if that's where it needs to go. Number one, mic on. Okay.
Everyone, huh?
Yep.
Mr. Balich, if I'm understanding you correctly, you would like to have the ordinance amended to include notification to the property owners within a half-mile radius of the project by letter. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, that is contained in paragraph number 1 of the proposed ordinance. Okay. And you also are asking that the Department of Transportation present every 2 years to the county board a list of the projects that are currently taking place.
And the comments.
Okay. So that is contained in paragraph 5 of the proposed ordinance, except for the language regarding the comments. So is that,
You're talking about I read the entire thing down, the purpose is might be included in it. Talking about the actual resolution. not
the resolution adopts the ordinance? as- Yes.
Okay.
Okay, then.
So those items are
As it's
contained
fully-
except for the comments.
then there's
Right.
no problem.
Is
So
that-
you want to amend paragraph 5 to include the Will County Department of Transportation shall present at the January County Board meeting of the following calendar year and provide a project list and list of property owners notified per project. And then add in there along with public comments.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to keep this straight.
Yeah.
We do have a motion and a second to put the ordinance on the floor. You want to make a motion to amend. So let's see if you have a second for that, and then we can continue discussion on the amendment. Second, Dan? Okay. Let's open discussion for the amendment, and then we'll take a vote on the amendment. Is there anyone need to discuss the amendment?
Yeah.
Sherry, hi.
I just wanted to basically make a comment because this actually, and since I've been on the board, this has been a problem that I feel that the public has not been as aware of these projects as they should be. So I think that adding this will address a lot of that. Because if I wasn't on this board, there's a whole bunch of stuff I wouldn't know, and I probably should know, but I'm not looking for it. So if the notification is out there, I believe that it will help with people having that information. So I'm in agreement with it.
Okay. Any other comments on the amendment? I have,
I'm sorry.
well, I do have a comment, and it sounds like Elle does too. Go ahead, Elle.
She's not on though. Yes.
Okay.
To keep residents more informed, I also support the amendment. I just want to ask a question about number 1, 2, property affected by the project. I guess I want to be more specific that there could be several properties affected by the project. Will that be made clear in the notification and not just the one individual homeowner? Because as a resident, I think I'd like to know the span of area that would be affected by any given project.
Should have had.
This is that is notification to a half mile, but the actual notice would indicate the property affected by the project. I just want to make sure it's not just the individual residents or homeowner, but the actual span of properties.
So they-
Plural.
I thought they said, so you're saying that everyone within that half mile is not notified?
They would be notified, they get the letter, notification. What is indicated in the letter, I would like it to see. It indicated not just the address, like let's say it was my home, but the actual span of location, the scope of the project.
Not on your microphone, you need to.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I agree with what I was saying.
Okay.
So you should make an amendment that add scope of, it's all there. It's on there? Oh, it does say that.
Any other comments on the amendment? I had talked to Jeff beforehand and a couple different times about this issue. And the half a mile notification, like, before I can vote on any of this, I need to know what is our cost on something like this? And I know you mentioned before the meeting that this has never been done in any Collier County, like this half mile radius is unheard of. So I would like you to maybe address that. And you probably don't even know how much it's going to cost, but I had mentioned this before that I can't vote on that until I know what our cost factors are. So can you make a
Yeah,
comment?
correct. I, at this time, I couldn't even really put a guess. I mean, we're talking, I mean, I did over the weekend because I just saw it late Friday, and of course we're off Monday, so I didn't have time to really research anything, but it's just 100 foot lot. You take that, and if you go half mile either direction, that's a mile, so 5,000, feet. That's 50 lots right there. And if you got a 2 mile stretch, that's 10,000 feet. You do all that math, you're talking about 2,500, 5,000 properties. That's a lot of time and effort, which, if that's what you want, that's what we do. It's just, that's a lot. And I don't know of any other county that comes anywhere near this. And the ordinance for the Bureau of Land Act says we send public notice to the affected property owners. And in that notice is the scope of the project. It's from here to here. And we put in a website nowadays. We didn't back on the 143rd day. But we put the website so you can get a lot more detail nowadays. So a lot of that is getting taken care of with the various public meeting aspects. Now every 2 years, I don't know if you're insinuating just during phase one process, during the design process, during construction process. There's still some things I don't really understand what that's what all mean. So I kind of need to digest and come up with those questions for you probably so that I would understand what this means. We do our multi-year plan every year. So that is put out there for people to look at and have questions on. And typically we would go through the projects through that list, maybe not in great detail. If you want to go through that much detail in January, you yourselves will need a lot of time. I don't know if you just want it presented to you and then you ask questions, or a presentation on all 30 projects every year. So there's a lot of things we probably need to go back and forth on to understand what this really means. And I'm just, stuff's coming off my head right now. So I don't have that formulated yet. So if you give me another month to come back with some more questions and maybe some data on what this might look like. I mean, how many properties are we talking about on the projects we have? I could probably narrow that down and understand what that really looks like so we know what we're talking about. I would probably request that. Give us another month to really dig in to see, what this means.
And this is for every project that we have going, right? So
That's how I read it.
We're not talking about a half a mile each way on one project. You need to multiply that by 30 or however many projects we have going.
Yeah, and Wilmington Peatone is 22 miles long. Granted, it's a lot of rural, so it's not as many
Yeah.
people there, but
All right.
there's a lot of stuff out there.
So let's continue the conversation. We'll go from Steve,
All
we'll
right.
head back this way again.
As far as the cost, if you haven't got an indicia that gives you close to half price, you need to apply for it. That's number one. Number two is if you do every door direct mail, it'll cost you 20 cents per post. If you don't have the half price indicia, if you have the indicia, it'll cost you 10 cents, somewhere around 10, 12 cents for each mailer. And then it costs somewhere between 15 and 20 cents for the printing. So if you do 10,000 houses and you don't have that indicia, it's 20 cents per piece, and you use every door direct mail. And if it's going to be 10,000 houses with 20 cents a piece plus the printing, it's about 35, 40 cents, somewhere in that range to mail the 10,000 houses that you just said. So that's not a real heck of a lot of money to keep all the people to know what's going on. You're talking about $3,500 about to make sure that everybody knows what's going on. I mean, when you talk about 10,000 pieces of mail at 55 cents plus printing, you're talking like 70, 75 cents. But I'm talking about using their noggin a little bit. You think outside of the box and you get that indicia, which obviously you don't have because you don't know what it is. So it's a government thing that you're allowed to get. If you're a nonprofit, you're allowed to get it. And that will cut the cost almost in half. So what I just said if I know about it and I'm no genius, I can figure it out. It's gonna cost for 10,000 houses about $3,500.
Fair enough. Dan?
Okay, so I know it's an extra cost and as a fiscal conservative, I don't want to add any extra costs. But I also know that, I took an oath, right, to protect the liberties of the people as well. And land ownership is the largest, most important liberty that people have. And we started out with eminent domain. Now we want to go to quick take. Quick take doesn't even allow the people to have the leverage to bargain over their property. And then we're not even going to inform them before we do a project to determine whether or not we should even do the project and cause this hardship on these people. I think it's a no-brainer that we spend, at the most, if you have 5,000 people, you're spending, like maybe 4,000 for mailers at the most. So that doesn't seem like a huge cost to me, considering what's at stake here. If a person has a piece of property and it's worth $100,000 and you're going to take 10% of it, we could say, well, that's $10,000. Do we take into, consideration that they've lived there for 25 years and they've already paid for that property twice? Even though it's only worth 100,000, they've paid twice that. So yeah, they need a little bit of leverage, and this is just being nice and trying to get it out there before we come in and enforce eminent domain or try to do quick take. So let's put things in perspective. This is a small effort to protect the people's rights.
I'm not hearing strong opposition for the notification. In fact, I'm hearing, a way for us to work to sending the notification out to property owners. I think really it is also our responsibility to know what the cost is going to be. And it may be, nominal enough. I don't know what indicia is. I've never heard of it myself, Steve. So curious about how, we could, reduce costs with these mailers, and even something as simple as we've all gotten those class action lawsuit postcards, like a postcard sort versus a letter, which might be, just a smaller cost. So just consider that in the research. I would be open to another month of researching if that's what's needed. I do want to make sure that the committee knows that I do support a notification, but we should understand what that cost is too. So thanks for bringing that up, Chair.
Sherry?
I agree with what Elle just said, but I also, it seems to me that we do leave people out of the equation a lot of times. There's a certain, we think we know more than they do type of attitude that I don't care for. And I think that if people are notified now, if they don't care, they don't care, and then we can go forward with whatever we're doing. I agree with Elle that if Jeff needs a little bit more time to look into it, I'm okay with that too. But just because nobody else does it, doesn't mean Will County shouldn't.
Jim?
So I'm all for the notification because I think an informed citizen is probably the best citizen that we could possibly have. At the same token, too, I look at it as a cost from the FTE perspective of how much time do we waste with staff sitting in the back of the room while we have to listen to hundreds of letters or, people getting up, giving public comment. I'm not against public comment. But I think if they're informed, we may be actually be able to save some labor costs. So it might be an offset at the end of the day. So I'm all for it.
Okay. Yeah, out of the requests of the staff, Jeff, I would be willing to give you another month and come back with some numbers. There is a motion and a second to amend the original ordinance. So if this discussion is over, I would like to call for a roll on the amendment. Yes.
Sandy's not on. Sandy, you're not on. You need to turn your mic on.
Richmond,
Yes.
Balich,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Costa, Logan,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Van Dyne.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, so there's the amendment is now on the ordinance. Now, my question is, I think at least half of this committee is not willing to move forward. So when we call for a vote on this ordinance creating, we're just a lot, the people that do not want it passed now and want to give staff time to vote should be a no vote on this ordinance, correct? To move forward?
I got a question.
Okay.
Well, I'm listening and I'm hearing what was in the discussion that makes it so that you would have to have an extra month to figure it out. Because I just told you, there is a thing called an indicia that you can get. And if you don't know, somebody here has got to know because I know all about it. And so if I know your staff should be able to find it and find out if you qualify for it and everything else. And even if you don't, it's 20 cents. 20 cents for every door direct mail. Just go on your phone right now and pull it up and it says every door direct mail, 20 cents. And then you pull out the mail routes. You don't even have to do a lot of work. You just go there and this mail route, that mail route, this mail route, and it gets taken care of. The printer does all the printing. You don't have to do it in-house, but I think we have a printing section in-house, so that would save more money. But I don't know if they can do that. So other than the cost of the mail, what is the reason you need another month?
I would like you to respond and then
Sure.
I believe our state's attorney has some input for us as well.
Well, cost is important because it's coming out of our budget, highway department budget. So we'd want to know what those are to quantify them for the future. And again, 30 projects is a lot of projects. Staff time alone, someone has to draw these things and work with the people who keep the tables on the mailings to get all the mailings put together. There's a lot of staff time. I want to understand what that is personally. But I do have a bit of an issue with this public notice anyways, and I want to present to you what that is without just saying I don't like it, because I don't like it. And I don't want to be that upfront about it, but if it's going to be forced, I will. But I would like to give you some reasonable reasons. This public notice, we do this several times throughout a project already. The public notices go out to the adjacent property owners and then a few off on side streets. Not a half mile. I'll grant you, we don't do that. But every property owner along there gets a notice. And now we use geofencing, so anyone who drives through the project, when there's a public notice, gets a little ding on their phone saying there's a public meeting, here's a website you go to get information. So to me, that's getting more than the property owners themselves, that's getting the people who use the roadway. So with the technology that's out there, we're getting these public notices out there. So we're duplicating work by doing this. We're already going to have 2 or 3 public meetings on most of our projects, not all of them, most of our projects. So these notices are going to go out probably quicker than 2 times per year. So the redundancy here is, I want to make sure everyone understands what that is. So I kind of like to lay out to you what we do, so you know what that is. And if it's not enough, which I know many of you don't think that's enough, I can appreciate that. I just think we should have all the cards on the table. So I need another month to get my cards together.
Okay, Kevin, did you want to
Yeah.
add something, please?
Just to go off of what Mr. Ronaldson's saying, you'd ask what the proper way to maybe give him some more time to get that. You could always table it till next month as well, rather than just straight up voting down the proposed ordinance. So we bring it back next month. Mr. Ronaldson can have some of those answers. He can consult with whatever other entities he may need to, whether it's the state's attorney's office or the budget department, something like that. So you can always make a motion to table it so that Mr. Ronaldson can get those thoughts together. We can get a full picture of what we're actually looking at here, rather than just saying it's only going to cost this much money.
Okay, so what I'm understanding is Mr. Balich made the motion. He would either have to rescind his motion, and if he doesn't want to and he wants to continue with the vote, then the chances are yes or no.
It's not too late to table. No, anybody can make the motion to table this. It is in front of the committee right now.
Okay. All right. Additional statements, Steve?
Go ahead, Dan. He was ahead of me.
Okay, let me get Dan. I think this next time.
I heard what you had to say. I didn't feel that any of that reasoning was that strong. One of the things is we want to have this meeting before costs are incurred. We want public opinion on a site before we get ourselves indebted to IDOT, before we get threatened with a blacklist because the people don't want it, so that we don't have those kind of problems arise. So that's part of the notice up front, okay? And then wasting all of our staff's time in trying to present a huge project before we even know if the people are going to fight it, okay? Because we represent them, okay? Ultimately, we represent them. So that's why it's important to have this before, and that's how it's different than what we do now, which is after we have incurred all kinds of costs. And as far as geofencing, I'm glad that you brought that up, because with geofencing, which I am familiar with, it is very simple. I mean, it would take me about 5 minutes to encapsulate everyone within a half mile of that project and have a mailing list ready to go out to the printer. It's how long it would take because of the use of geofencing. So I just, I think that there's very little reason not to have this notice for the people.
Al?
Thank you. I appreciate our Director of Transportation and Engineering, telling us, the way that he feels. So be as direct as you feel you need to be with me and the committee, Jeff. I do appreciate that. And even after hearing all of the department's reasons, this committee may go ahead and vote forward this notification. When we get that notification, or like when we do that, which I believe this committee will be moving this forward, I want to know what that cost is going to be. I want to know that Steve's idea, was brought forward and getting the best possible price. I want to know that my idea of like maybe a postcard versus a letter, if that was going to keep prices low, happens. And so I think in tabling this and bringing it forward a month, it'll give us that information. And it'll also, I think by October, give us time. If the first notification goes out in December after this next election, we're going to be all right. This month is not, I'm not too worried about that, but I would like to hear the additional information you and your department want to bring forward to us, Jeff.
Sherry?
And just for me, just the fact that Mr. Brownson wants to, he's making the request, common courtesy, give him what he wants.
Yeah, I tend to agree as well. So, Steve, how would you like to handle this? Would you like to continue to move forward? Yes or no votes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll call for a roll.
So just for clarification for the minutes, you're voting on the amended ordinance at this point.
Yes.
Okay.
Richmond,
We voted on the amendment,
To
but now,
amend it.
and now,
And now you have to vote on
Now
it
you
as amended.
yeah, I'm sorry, Kim.
As amended to.
Moving it forward.
To include
Moving it forward to the full board.
the amendment of public comments received by the Department of Transportation for each project would be included in the presentation to the county board.
Yes.
Balich,
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Costa. Logan,
Yes.
Williams. Van Dyne.
No.
Motion passes 4-3.
4-3, motion carries. Okay, thank you, everybody. Great discussion. Mr. Ronaldson, you better do your quick homework.